Hey guys, welcome back to the Tournament Report with yours truly, Paul Reisman, and today we're going to be taking a look at Magdeburg, Germany. Let's get right into it.
This session brought to you by Odyssey Games for pre-orders and sealed product, CCG Prime for tons of singles and supplies, Cardo Doko for international rulers looking for product, and FoulLibrary.com for articles and wonderful deck lists. It's also brought to you by our guest lecturer patrons, Vite Ramen. Class is in session.
So today we're taking a look at the recent GP that was held in Magdeburg, Germany. We are going to be taking a look at the top 8 lists. Unfortunately, we do not have a ruler breakdown for this tournament, but the lists are as interesting as you can possibly imagine being right after the set release. So let's just get right into it. So for first place, we have Lars Grams, one of the friends that we have of the channel. So congratulations, buddy, for getting first place. He's playing an Aristella list, which I did not think would do as well as it did. I did not peg Aristella being nearly as powerful as he is, and I would not necessarily attribute that to him as much as I would his contract, but also Warhorse. So there's going to need to be some explanations here as to why this deck did so well. So we're going to get into that. We're going to look at the Moon Children he chose first. Of course, he chose Light and Fire. So Fire Moonchild is probably one of my favorites, right up there with Black Moonchild. This basically says that you cannot stop my stuff, and so don't even try. And if you do, great. You tried to cancel my contract. Well, I get it anyway because I have Fire Moonchild. So that's also a really good reason to run this. On top of having Fire available for Ataractus Moria, and then you have your Water Moon and Wind Moon fragments that help you foresee and look through the deck and search through it, of course. Please ignore my dog. So we're going to get into the deck now. This is more of a fairy tale take on the list. It's definitely got its Warhorse elements. And of course, I've said it kind of revolves around Fairy Tale King's ability to search out a fairy tale from the deck. So what's really good about that is you have 2 ways of triggering a search in order for you to get access to your Warhorse. You have Charge the Fairy Tale King on top of your contract. And then on top of that, of course, you have a ton of fairy tales you get access to. You get Dark Alice Rabbit Princess, probably one of the best fairy tales ever printed in the list. But you also have Never End. He plays 1 copy of Guinevere in order for your opponent to... basically, they don't get to do stuff on your turn without paying additional cost for it. Morgiana is here to help you dig for the cards that you need, which is super good. 1 Witch of the Fallen Kingdom. It's really good against Zeus. It's really good against other decks that want to search and get out their Warhorse. I would say this card is probably really, really valuable right now because of the Warhorse situation. Sealed One-Eyed Dragon, one of the most splashable cards in the new set. Pay 600 life. You can either deal damage to a player or J Resonator for 6 life, or you can draw a card. And then if you paid life in any way, you can recur it from the graveyard for the turn. But I don't think that's what Lars is trying to do with this. This card seems there as just a really easy, slottable removal tool, draw material. It's really good with Morgiana because now you're looking at 3 cards and you get to choose one, which is really strong. And then, of course, he's playing Prototype Trooper, which, again, also works with Morgiana. Not a fairy tale, but if you see it in combination with this card, you essentially are looking at the top 3 cards for free and then picking one of them, which is really powerful. This card in and of itself, it's been compared... at least between Jeremy and myself, it's been compared to Upstart Goblin from Yu-Gi-Oh! If you know what I'm talking about. That card was nothing in early Yu-Gi-Oh! But now it is one of the best draw cards that we have in that game. Why not just give it to us here as well? That's kind of been my thought. You'll see Prototype cropping up in a lot of these lists because it is just a play this card, your deck is now slimmer. Congratulations. Moving on to the chance, you have Alice's Fantastic Trick. What's so cool about this card is that it actually increased in its value because of things like Charge of the Fairy Tale King and Warhorse. And basically how these cards are worded, they're put onto the chase. You are honestly, you're casting them. So because of that, you get the torrent effect from this card, which has a lot of value attached to that. Birth of the Twin Princes. This is one of the cards exclusive to the starter deck, but it's super, super good in this list. You can pay it for 1, or it's free if you have Aristella and you want to rest Aristella instead. You probably do. You can foresee 2 and then draw a card, which is also, again, really good with Morgiana. But also its second mode allows you to give 1 Resonator +4/+4 in Barrier, while the other one gets +4/+4 in Swiftness. It's not precision, excuse me. That is a very different keyword. This card is super good. I would liken it to having an impact on the game in the way that Magic Suites did back when that was released in Lapis Cluster. This card has just a lot of really good practical applications as a white card. It's very generic in that way. So it can be free, but it's still really good if it's just a 1 cost. Playing this at 4 alongside 4 Charge of the Fairy Tale King. This is a 2 cost. Don't let the screen lie to you. It is a 2 cost card, but it's really, really good in combination with the sideboarded Eternal. If he wants to bring in that over the wall, you're all of a sudden those cards just get cheaper to play. Alongside the Contract is also easier to play at that point. Now, I for one thought this was going to be a little bit harder to play, in the sense that you don't have a ton of God's Arts that you get to play, but of course you get 2 at the start of the game, and the Light Moonchild and the Fire Moonchild. So this, you're proactively playing those sometimes in order to play this card. But then you get the Search, which is really strong. The Search, along with Warhorse, puts 12 damage on board, but it also searches out your Neverend, which is really strong. Neverend, in and of itself, is definitely one of the win conditions of this deck. It gets +14/+14 and Eternal if you have 10 or more Fairy Tales in revealed zones, public zones, essentially. Not the stuff that is in your sideboard, but the stuff that is in your graveyard and on your field. That's there. Plus, you can just rest one of your Moon Children or even Aristella himself to make all entities on your field into Fairy Tales. So this card becomes very big, very quick. But in addition to that, you get Knight of the Fairy Tale Moon. Very strong in that it can recover your stuff that's a fairy tale and just swing right in. I believe Aristella is not a fairy tale, so never mind, I will not make that point. But you do have a ton of other fairy tales, like your Dark Alice Rabbit Princess, that once it's on the field, you can essentially just pay this for free and recover your stuff and attack in. This is definitely a win condition for fairy tales. Make no mistake about that. The great thing about the Fairy Tale King, though, is that he gets to search a fairy tale, which includes the additions that are also fairy tales. Yeah, you're like, well, yeah, duh. But no, there are fairy tale additions in the game, like Cage of Mother Goose. Rest a fairy tale, banish a thing. Your opponent doesn't get it back until they kill off Cage of Mother Goose. Goes really well with your Eternal, because your Eternal gives your additions barrier, so that's a really good combination of cards there. And then he's also playing 3 Origins of the 7 Lands. This reveals a ton of stuff on the sideboard to give him additional effects, as it will a lot of other players who played this suite. So he's playing Dragon of Solari. He's also playing Einsberg, you can reveal and do additional effects with. He's playing Shark to additionally draw a card. And he's also playing Terminator Drone. Drywing, pretty common, actually. Mechanized Children of Kronos, one of my favorite cards to reveal with Origins, because it can just come in and make your opponent cry. Which I believe this is the one that blows up Resonators, not making your opponent discard. And then, of course, you have the 2 Cocoons that he has in his sideboard. We mentioned them before, Eternal, but he also has the Great Wall, which the best text on this card is at the beginning of the game, draw a card. So now you have 6 cards going first instead of just 5, which is really, really, really good. And then, of course, you gain barrier, so your opponent can't just burn you out. But in addition to that, your opponent's first 900 damage is absorbed by this card. So yeah, this card is super good, but sometimes you do want to play Eternal, especially if you're wanting to play Charge or your Contract a little bit earlier on curve. So the deck in general has just a lot going for it. Mad respect to you, Lars, for inventing this and bringing Aristella to the top. I have really wanted to see a Fairy Tale list actually do well. Did not think that Aristella would be as good as he is, so congratulations to you. Next up, we're going to be looking at another Warhorse deck. However, it's going to be taken from a different perspective. This is being piloted by Jean-Paul Clintworth, and he got second place with Mocking the Machine Lord. Wow, blast from the past. This deck has not seen the light of day in many moons, many years. This card has been simply just unused, and now because we have cards that you can search for free, like Prototype, Machina does not necessarily need to search out machines. He is the ruler who benefits the no attribute or void archetype. So you can search out things like the Prototype Magi Trooper. You can search out Typhon Artifact Cluster, Asteroid Cluster. This is technically a 0 cost in the deck because of its X cost. That's super relevant and super good. Then you can pay 1 to search for the Gearsification Factory. That's also a real thing. This deck is doing some really interesting things, and of course when you're searching out for free with your Machina on his front side, you get to just make a Warhorse. Again, Warhorse is like one of the champions of the format at the moment. He's playing also some really good cards like Dark Alice Rabbit Princess to be able to search. He's playing a couple of Feathsing, so if he does end up getting his Gearsification Factories and his Typhon on the field, as well as some other stuff that he has in the list, this actually kind of goes a long way. You also have Engineer of Eternal, which also benefits from the additions being played. What's so good about this is that instead of your additions dying, they just go back to your hand. You can play this for free by resting an addition, and if you end up having 2 out when you enter this card, you end up getting another card, which is nice. Card's interesting, I gotta say, especially with Warhorse, being able to just search out something, give this thing swiftness and swing in. It's really nice. And then of course we're playing the super flexible Sealed One-Eyed Dragon. Again, pay 6, deal some damage to a Georesonor or your opponent, or pay 6, draw a card. Super good. Prototype is in here at 4 because you want to be able to search it out every single turn. You probably only need about 4 turns. And at this point, I want to take your attention to the stone list. The stone list is playing 10 stones, 7 of which are unique. So you have 2 Ancient Magic Stones, you have 2 Heaven's Rift, and then 2 Shadowy Light Magic Stones. Everything else is going to be like your Null Stone, which is really helpful for bringing back your Sealed One-Eyed Dragon later in the game. Black Silence, Gusting Darkness, and then your Darkness Moon Fragment as well. All of these go to build toward the Magic Stone Research Institute endgame. So basically now on turn 3 or turn 4, your 0 cost 1/1s are now 9/9s. Hooray. And of course, if you revealed your Bird of Solari, it's giving it additional stats and different symbol skills as well. Never mind. I completely misread that card. So Bird of Solari will just give you additional life. Dragon of Solari will deal an additional 400 damage. So like there's this nice little package that you have to make your opponent sort of either lose their life or gain your own life. Of course, you have Drywing in the sideboard, and all of this builds with Origin. So with a Magic Stone Research Institute endgame, there's just tons of other ways in which you can dump those into the graveyard, especially with Selective Decapitation. Draw a card, sacrifice some stuff, draw a card, which is super good. In the end, this deck is doing some really interesting mid-rangey things, but again, it's all really predicated around Warhorse. And JPK is just trying to get this card on the field in order to buff them up and make them humongous, remove your opponent's graveyard, all that all that fun jazz. So this deck is super interesting. Also notice he's playing 4 Horn to just poop on Zeus's all day long. So congratulations to JPK. Speaking of Zeus, we have Andreas Heigler here with a very similar Zeus list to what we've seen before. So what I'm going to do today is just sort of highlight some of the things that are different now that we have lost Mount Olympus, which was the one of the primary cards that was used in this deck, right next to the 1 Magic Stone. Because you're a 5-color deck, and because we have multiple stones in the format that can give you 5 color, the deck has pretty much switched to playing 4 Ataractes Memoria and 4 Moonshade. That's pretty standard, and then you have 2 other stones that you're going to choose that give you access to your most important colors plus white. Pretty much after that, you have all of your Olympians, minus, of course, Mount Olympus. You get to do some additional things with the list, like playing Conclave instead. So you, instead of drawing 2 additional cards every turn with Mount Olympus, now you can draw 3 and then discard 3 at the end of your turn, which can be helpful. And then there are just tons of other cards that are being played that are pretty normal at this point. You're still trying to put cards ordered onto the field, and like Fiery Vengeance Angel, and then sack them off in order to get as many searches as possible. And as you play the deck, Union 7 comes to you. That's just kind of how the deck is functioning. One other cool tech is the Dark Mage of Mott. This card has not seen a ton of play, but this card is super good when it's ordered because it makes your opponent discard 2 cards, which is also very good. It also gets rid of their Black Witch, which is nice. And you can stack the chase in such a way that you can kill their Black Witch and then still search. So this card is super useful for that. Other than that, they also got more side deck tools, like Bird to increase your life, Shark to help you draw a card, things like that. Basically, the deck has not changed too much. It's just kind of come down in terms of its power level. So congratulations. We are then going to Antoine Hamelin, who's still playing the Shiva Magic Stone attack you directly. Basically, it's the Arla combo, Stone Dance combo, but now it's just with Shiva. So you get a little bit more support in Rigveda with that, in addition to the Awakening of Gruz Ballesta, and then you automatically have the Arena expansion, which allows you to attack with a Resonator and recover a Magic Stone, and it just has text because it's being played with Shiva. So in addition to all of that, you're playing a Stone Diversity Magic Stone deck here to make your Awakenings a lot cheaper. You're playing Wind of Zeus because it's technically not a cancel. It removes that card from the chase, from the game. And then you just play Ferris Spell to back up your combos in addition to that. So you're playing a really nice cancel package in this list. Other than that, there's not a lot more going on here. You just also have access to Prototype Magi Trooper. So this deck is super fun. It's really interesting. We haven't featured it on the channel, but let us know down in the comments if you would like us to, because this deck would be fun to pilot, I bet. Going down into the 5th through 8th place, Dennis Nasty playing another Zeus deck, relatively similar to what we've seen before, although he's main decking Shackles of Ice and Outer Space as just tech options. Lucas Lehrman also playing Zeus, very similar to other Zeus lists. It's pretty much exactly the same. He's playing Alice's Fantastic Trick as well, which is, an option. So it's there. Also playing Inferno. Fun flavor. m.ha, friend of the channel, playing a 56 card list of Zeus. I would go into this, but it's a little much. I'm going to leave you all the opportunity to do that with this link down in the description. And then we have Phillip Kwok at the very end, playing a very different Aristella list than what we saw from Lars. So instead of going for like Warhorse combo shenanigans with Fairy Tales, this Aristella list instead relies on Excalibur Chronogear, and kind of like ramping up to that. It's more of a mid-range build, but it has a lot of control elements like Feath Sings, it has Lorites, It has Prisias in order for you to search, which again, this would be a really good combo enabler with Warhorse. He's playing a Borozuki to dig deep into his deck and find things, but he's also playing 4 Witch. He's playing Witch at 4, and he's playing Horn at 2, and I'm guessing he's doing that to sort of manage the Zeus matchup. I'd probably play 4 Horn and probably 4 Witch in this list just to make sure that they can't do anything. He is playing 1 Engineer of Eternal, which is okay, because he's able to play things from his deck, with Kage's Moonbeam Butterfly, so you're able to get Alvarez for 2, or Barrier of Shadows, which, stops God's Arts. It also makes Judgment a little bit harder to get to with things like Machina being in the meta again. He also has Outer Space to shut down Judgments and Orders, while also stealing your opponent's symbol skills and drawing you a card, which is really nice. He is playing a couple of Origins, so he gets access to his sideboard with all of the basic stuff, like your Dry Wings. But at the end of the day, the deck is really trying to go longer into the game. He's playing Duet of Light. He's also playing a Duet of Darkness, so you get to do additional effects because you're playing multiple rulers, really being able to utilize these older Duet cards that came out in Magic Stone War, which was pretty long ago at this point. So this deck is really interesting in that it is trying to be more mid-rangey and not utilize Warhorse nearly as much, which is definitely a different way you can go with this list. He's also playing Child of the Wind Moon, which, most people are saying this card is there to sort of manage the new cards coming out with Mastery. I think this is being used specifically to make sure that Phillip has access to 4 colors, because the deck is trying to be a mid-range control list with, Pumpkin Witch being in the sideboard. It's very mid-rangey. All that being said, very cool list, very different. And it got into the top 8. So Aristella is actually doing some really interesting things, especially as it comes into the meta. You notice there's no Justices, there's no Vega / Berserker being played. There's also no Athenias being played. Very few Lorites as well. This is the deck that uses the most Lorite out of any in the top 8, as well as that many Feet Sinks. This is a little unprecedented. I mean, we came from a meta where Feet Sing and Lorite were kind of everywhere, and now in this specific metagame, in this specific instance, these cards are kind of lower on the totem pole. Is that all related to Red Moonchild? It's hard to say, but that would certainly be a consideration for us in deck building. So these cards may not be seeing nearly as much play for that reason, but who knows what the Caseyville is going to hold for us here in the United States. So guys, let me know what you thought of Magdeburg, Germany's GP down in the comment section down below. If you're looking for all of these deck lists, they're on fowllibrary.com. Link is going to be in the description of the video. Hit like, hit subscribe, ring that bell if you want more videos like this, and let me know if any of these lists piqued your interest for what you want to bring to Caseyville down in the comment section down below. Looking forward to talking with you guys, but this has been Paul with another tournament report. Catch you next time.